Hi and welcome to this video. I'm Michael from PokerRanger. In this video I will briefly give you an overview of some of the most valuable features of PokerRanger2 to improve your game. You can find additional information on our homepage and we will frequently give you more learning material on our social media channels. Also, if you have any questions or feature wishes, do not hesitate to write us via email or on Skype. So if you open PokerRanger for the first time, you will have the option to select a standard layout. I will select the layout with 2 player ranges tapped on the top left, the board, the equity calculations, and all of the other features tapped in the main view. Now, if you apply the layout, the main window of PokerRanger will open. On the top left, you see 2 player ranges tapped, where you can also directly in the main window select some hands. Of course, you can also do this for the other player, and you might also apply percentage numbers here in the text input field. Now, without the need to open any other window, we can directly select board cards in the main window. For example, Ace of Diamonds, 9 of Spades, 8 of Spades. We could also use the text input field, for example, to input Ace, King, Queen, R for rainbow, or Ace, 10, 9, S for spades. For this example, let's stick with Ace of Diamonds, 10 of Spades, and 9 of Spades. We can also select dead cards, for example, by pressing Ctrl on Windows or Command on macOS. You can also use the hand range manipulation dialog to select hands in a more sophisticated way. To do that, just press the button next to the range in the main window. So here you have the basic options, for example, to select suits. And you can view all of the selected suits always in this little pop-up. If you press down Alt, you can also keep the hover open to get an overview fast. You can also use the selectors to select ranges in an easier way. So let's clear the range for now. For example, you can press the plus button at flush draw and the plus button next to pair to select all pairs and flush draws. You can also override the current range with the sign button or remove the hands with the X. If you want to combine some of the hand strengths, you can use the combinations mode. Now select, for example, flush draw and pair, hit the sign button, and you have all the pairs and flush draws selected at the same time. Now let's clear the range again. So PokerRanger2 also has the possibility to use weight groups in the most extensive way. For example, we might hit the 50% button and select some of the hands. For example, we see now that Kings has only 3 combinations because we have 6 times 0.5 combinations. The suit selection, however, will always show you how different combinations are selected. For example, we might introduce another weight group with 25%, only select some of the combinations and hit Kings again. And now we will see that we have a mixture of 50% and 25% of weight, which is nicely displayed in this hover. Of course, the combined combinations are also shown here in this matrix. Now, PokerRanger2 also allows you to subdivide your range into groups. So maybe let's select a larger range of 70% and maybe also use 50% of weight for some of the hands. Now we can divide our base range into multiple groups. For example, group 1, and group 2. So for group 1, we could just use the add remainder or inverse button to select the entire range. And now in group 2, we could choose another weight of 25% and just override some of the hands. And as you can see, the hands that are only selected with 50% in the parent range, like ace jack off, is now selected also with 25% in group 2 and 25% in group 1, so that the suit symbols are shown in a split mode. Some of the hands that are 100% in the parent range are now 25% in group 2 and 75% in group 1. The hover will always show the combinations for the selected group. So the color coding will show you all the suits, but the suit hover will show you the numbers of the selected group. For example, if we switch back now to this group, we see that the numbers fit to group 1. Also note that another weight group 75% is automatically created because it was needed when having selected some of the hands in group 2 with 25%. And we can always subdivide our groups as deep as we would like by just hitting the Add Group button. Now, it is also possible to store all of these ranges in our custom range area. So just hit the Store button, give it a name, and you will also be able to see all the groups of the custom weight ranges here. You will also be able to put some notes to the ranges. All of this is displayed in the small pop-up that comes up if you hover over a range. Note that all of these ranges are of course compatible with PokerRanger1, so you can always import all of your old ranges here. Also note that this text input field here is compatible with other poker softwares, for example, PIO solver. We could also enter aces colon 0.8 and get, of course, in this case, only 25% of aces because it was selected only with 25% in the parent range. But now if we clear the range and add aces colon 0.8 and hit enter, we will see that we have selected it with 80% of weight. Back to the main window. Here we have multiple different options. We can create new files, open files, save files, and undo and redo. For example, if we open the history window, we will see that we have all of our previous action summarized in a nice way here. In addition, we can see the ranges by hovering over the different ranges. For example, in the past we had this range, and now we have reduced buttons range to just aces with 80%. We can also see how we have modified our custom range, and we can get to any snapshot in time by just clicking on the particular lines in this tree. We can also add new players by just hitting the Add Player button or use the drop-down, for example, adding under the guns range here. And if we hit some range here and select some of these players, we can directly calculate equities here. You will also be able to play another standard layout if you would like to switch. Get information about the used libraries, the version, and the revision. or to view the current download status of updates. Note that the whole layout of PokerRanger is completely adjustable. For example, you might resize all of the parts. You could use drag and drop to move any of the widgets either into tab mode, or you can also put it below any of the parts and then again resize it, for example. In this way, you are most flexible in rearranging all of the different tools that PokerRanger has. So now maybe let's switch to a layout where we can view two player ranges at the same time. For example, let's select 70% of hands here and 10% of hands for button. Now we can, like in PokerRanger1, evaluate boards. So here we see how the particular player ranges work. We can also, of course, use more than 2 players and then get a corresponding number of columns. So here, for example, cutoff has 42% of times a pair on the given board that we have selected. We are also able to completely clear the board and use a random flop. So now we see a Monte Carlo simulation which converges quite fast, that shows us how often on a random board the particular player ranges have a pair, 2 pair, or any other hand. We can also use with equity, which will at the same time calculate the equity. So here we see the hit percentages, but we can also display the equities with the particular hands. Of course, we are also able to use random turn or random river. Here we again have the equity view now tapped in this particular layout, and we also have equity tables. Again, within the equity table view, we are able to rearrange everything nicely. And of course, this view also is able to use more than 2 ranges. So here you see the equity for all of the particular ranges of the different players. We can again use hovers to get equities for all the particular suits. In the table below, we are able to see all the particular hands, either in aggregated mode or also in disaggregated mode for each particular hand. We can filter all of this by equity, which will apply both to the matrices and the table. And of course, we can also use some of these ranges after filtering. For example, only using the best hands of cutoff's range, viewable here in the top left matrix. And now we can use this range and insert this filtered range as a new group below cutoff's range. In doing that, we'll see, if we give us a little bit more space, that we have here a new group, equity table result, jacks plus, ace C, king C. We can also use the equity evolution. So for that, let's again add a few more cards and evaluate potential turns. And of course, here we see that equities profit a lot, at least from cutoff's perspective, if another diamond appears, because it will give additional equity. So if you look at button's range here, we see that actually the diamonds are not really helpful for button, because button already has a very strong hand and does not want cutoff to have more pairs and more options to hit his pairs. Of course, this function always works with more than 2 players. A different option is the equity graph, which displays how the equities of the particular players develop. So for example, we see for all 3 players that aces are always a very strong hand. And we can also see things like there is a sudden drop of equity from ace king of hearts for button to ace of heart and queen of diamonds. So this view can help you to find polarized ranges. Another function is the EV trees. For this, it might make sense to close all the other tabs and just have a full screen view. Now in this window, you have the option to design your tree just as you like, with multiple options and a multitude of branches, random cards, or just set cards. And for example, if you hover over a range, you will see which hands are selected here. You can also click on this now blue marked range rectangle to open it in the range manipulation window. What you can also do is you can import a hand history. So in this case, I have just taken run from PokerStars. So we have some pre-flop action, player 36 limps, player 34 raises, and player 36 just calls here. And then on the flop, there's not much action. On the turn, player 34 bets, 36 calls, and on the river, 34 bets, player 36 goes all in, and player 34 calls again. Now, if we import this hand history, we can see exactly the action. We see in each of these boxes the current pot size and the stack size of the particular player. So player 36 sets small blinds of 50 cents. Player 34 has now a stack size of $70.80, and the pot size at this particular point in time is 50 cents. Then player 34 sets the big blind. Our sample hero, and here we know exactly the hand, folds, 36 calls, 34 raises now to $3, and player 36 calls. So we also know the flop here, and we know that at the flop the pot size is $6. We have check check. Then at the turn, player 36 checks, 34 bets, 36 calls. And at the river, again 36 checks, 34 bets, 36 goes all in, and player 34 calls. We can also zoom out and in to get more or less overview or more details. So in this case, we just have random hands for both of the players to analyze the situation in more general. So we can hit the evaluate button so that the simulation is started, and we can finish it every time and then see how the expected values of the players are. So for example, player 36 has just taken equity into account, an expected value of 2.93, and player 34 has an EV of 3.07 at this point on time. Because now at the moment, both of the players have a random range, which means that, of course, they have a very similar EV. Now we could also give player 36 a much narrower range. So the range is defined by the actions of the previous hands. But we can at the very beginning also give player 36 a very strong range. So for example, let's just give him aces, run the simulation again, and now we see everything has changed. So for example, on the flop, we see that player 36 has now an EV of 37.40 and player 34 has a very negative EV. So this is a little example of how to import a hand history in PokerRanger2. We will make more content and more videos on this particular feature. We will show you how you can extend this range. For example, if player 36 has a broader range, you can also add other nodes like bet node, check node, fold node, although fold does not make any sense here. You can remove nodes, you can change everything like that. And of course, you can also track all of what has happened here, what you have changed in the history view. For example, by using some additional columns like number of players, number of nodes, small and big blind, and you can jump around in this history to jump to any particular states of your analysis. So this is just a short video. We love to hear any feedback. We love to hear anything that comes to your mind. If you would like to have any new features, if you would like to have any new parts of the EV trees, any new options here, or anything else, just let us know via Skype, via email, or in any other way. So thank you for watching and have a great day.